which direction to go with our channel. We were just filming our adventures, and that was fine. But we went, there's got to be something more that we can actually educate or learn about, because we homeschool. We very much like to learn about what's going on. And so I think plants, I always come back to plants. I always want to know what plants are around. I go, what if while I'm learning them, we just make simple videos and start sharing about the things that I'm learning. So I had some horticulturists in the plant class yesterday that had been doing it like 40 years, and they were like, the leaves are actually called this, and I'm like, so I am not that. I've been studying plants for about 4 years. And I'll get more into that, but just as a word of warning, this is very much just a passion of mine, and it's something that I like to incorporate in my home. And if I can learn about it and the kids can learn about it, then making just some simple videos to start using it is better for everybody. So I might not know all the technical terms as I am sharing, but that's what books are for, and that's, but that's something that has been really frustrating in the journey, is sometimes just trying to find a plant and not quite knowing, you look in this book and it can be so overwhelming. And so for me, I wanted to start teaching these so that people aren't so overwhelmed. Because, you can look around and go, I'm never going to learn all these plants. Well, you might not. And that's the truth. You might not ever learn all the plants. Start with one. But you can start with one at a time, and pretty soon you're going to have a dozen of them, and then you're going to know, a dozen in each state that you've been to, and then you're going to start building from there. So, it'll be the same kind of process that we're going to do today. Yeah. Okay.
Looking out, and it had a tree section, and the plant section was really small. I wanted to be kind of a book for my pocket. And it didn't even have a comic tree in it, so it was just one of those. I was like, all right, I have the absolute wrong book right now.
So, well, the owner did. Yeah, so that was really cool.
Yeah, and
but then I realized
I use Google more than books. I actually went to the Quartzsite Library and got out the 6 book knacks that I could, all on plants. And the other 5 I sent back the next day immediately after looking for them. And this was the only one that had most of the things that I was finding. I still can't find most of the plants that are here in all of this book. This book of just plants in Arizona. So that's where it gets really frustrating. Like I said, there was a horticulturist in yesterday's class, and I went, look, I found that plant that we saw out there with flowers. I'm giving it to you, and maybe you can figure out more of it. But she was even at a loss. She's like, I don't see it in this book. I don't see where. So, and that's something where you just keep at it. And you start asking, like I'll ask people, what does this smell like to you? What does this smell like to you? And you get different frames of reference as far as what the smell. Oh, that smells like curry, or that smells like this plant. So you can start saying, oh, I know that was like that. I guess I'll search an Arizona desert plant that smells like curry.
Right.
And it's really just a matter of kind of playing with it, because there isn't a book that has all the plants in it for anywhere.
Do you find yourself leaning towards one website with more steady information?
I don't, because I look up like if it's edible, I look up the edible uses for it, and then I use a different website for the medicinal uses of it, and then I'll look up a different book for the spiritual uses of it, or the metaphysical uses of it. And so I really go through, and I have to use quite a few, and even for the same like medicinal, I'll look up 2 or 3 to see if they have different various things. And if something's edible, I'll look up a whole lot. And if it doesn't have recipes, I won't eat it at first. Because if there's no recipes that has been made for it, then it's not really used that often as an edible. Does that make sense? So, yeah. Hi, I'm Stephanie. I saw you briefly. And what was your name again? Susan. So wonderful to meet you.
Hopefully, nice to meet you.
Hopefully, nice to see you again.
Oh.
Yes, we met this morning.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You were on
It
your
was
way.
so early.
You had a mission.
Your name now rings a bell.
Yes. In the haze of I gotta go.
Yes.
Awesome. Let me see what time it is. I think we're good. Okay. So I'm Stephanie. I've been setting plants for about 4 to 5 years now, and how I started off is I simply, my husband wanted to prep. He's a prepper, and he wanted to start hoarding bags of flour and beans and all this kind of stuff, and I went, okay, I can do this for a little bit, but this is going to last only so long. This bag of flour, it could last us probably a good 6 months. Then what? What happens if there's something that lasts longer than that? This is not prepping to me. This is just like a disaster. It's great to have a disaster plan, right? Because I mean, things can get cleaned up pretty easily. But that wasn't a long-term solution if something were to happen. So I went, well, I know at one point in time they used to rely exclusively on wild plants and edibles for medicine and nutrition. So I just started walking around my neighborhood and learning one plant every month. And so I did that for 4 years, and my kids actually know over 60 plants now as well from the local area that we were from in the mountains. So they were probably a half a dozen to a dozen since we've been here for the past week. So I go, if my kids can do it and they can start identifying them, and when we lived in the mountains, we'd go for forest school. We'd have forest school once a week, and we'd go for a hike, and they'd go, you can eat this, and you can eat that, and you can eat this, and you can eat that, and they would have salads with the kids, and they'd be munching down like, the chickweed out there, and they could actually play with it, whereas most kids just mash it up and play with it. They actually knew what was edible and what they could eat, and that made play that much more exciting because they could actually use it in their everyday lives. So it wasn't, for me, it was about empowerment. I never wanted to look around and think that there was nothing out there for me to eat. Out here in the desert, water is the scarcity, but there's no lack of food out here. And it's just a matter of starting to become familiar enough to start recognizing it. So does anybody recognize plants in their local area?
Sometimes, yeah.
Some certain trees, right? The cottonwood tree, nice to identify things like that. So while we walk around, we're gonna just get really familiar with smelling. I know a lot of people are told don't smell or touch. I am an experiential learner, so I have to smell and touch, but I always use my intuitive gut. So there's something called the scorpion plant that grows here. It's got these beautiful purple flowers, and it's covered in thorns, and they actually scorpion into your fingers if you go and grab them. My son was like, here Mom, I brought you this flower, the one flower in the book that like you shouldn't.
smelled it earlier. It's all
This plant, I'm going to put these down. This plant can be
It doesn't really smell like the treated salt I'm used to smelling.
It almost smells like fresh rain water. Like almost like
That's exactly what that, yeah.
Yep. And so there's a lot of uses for this.
What did you call that?
I call it chaparral.
Chaparral.
But in a lot of the books it's called creosote
Creosote.
or greasewood. Because it has a resin on it. So I actually made, when I first found it about a week ago, I'm making a tincture out of it. Because it does not have a high water content, you can go to any of these chaparral bushes, fill up a little mason jar or glass jar. I just used 100 proof vodka. You should use maybe a little bit higher proof vodka or an ethanol, but it's what I had and I wanted to start having a tincture with me just in case. This is a big thing about wild edibles and medicinals. It's a practice. Just start playing with it now. Incorporating it into your life now. You don't have to have all the perfect jars. You don't have to have the perfect proof vodka. Like, go to the liquor store and get a little tiny, that's what I did. I got a little tiny bottle of the highest proof vodka that the liquor store had. Because that's what my options were. I didn't want to order from Amazon. I didn't want to wait a few weeks. I wanted to make a tincture with it now. So, with the tincture, I'm going to put it down so I don't keep shaking it, because I just keep doing. So with the tincture can be used externally or internally. But something about chaparral is chaparral should not be used long term. There's lots of plants that can be used long term. Chaparral is not one of them. It is very hard on your liver and your kidneys. So I made the tincture. You can definitely use the tincture on wounds. It's an antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, and it kills protozoas. Protozoas are what cause food poisoning. You drink bad water, those have protozoas in them. And that's where if my kids started getting sick, I want this tincture on hand because there's no doubt I'm going to give them a drop. We are in the desert. I do not want them getting dehydrated because they have food poisoning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So while one drop is not going to be so hard on their kidneys, if I was to make a tea out of this, that tea that they would have to drink to the same amount of volume as one drop of tincture would be so much more harsher on their kidneys and their liver to process. So that's why if you make a tincture, you can get a little tiny bit of this very highly, it's such a powerful healing agent. You can just get a little tiny drop and then your body doesn't have to try to filter out so much. So that's why I really love making tinctures, and they're really easy to make. You take the actual raw, if you have something, if you're making a tincture out of anything except for chaparral pretty much, you want to let it dry just for 2 or 3 days. Not so it's like dry and crunchy, but just so that a lot of the main water content is out of the herb that you're going to tincture.
But not with this.
Chaparral has hardly any water content in it.
Okay.
So it's a resin and it is so dry already. You can take a fresh leaf and put it in the fire and it'll light right up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hardly any water in it.
What if you put oil? What if you put it in oil?
Okay, now you're making an infused oil, which I would not suggest. So I wouldn't ingest chaparral oil, but infused oils are great for so many other herbs. And you can use them topically, just on your skin, or ingest an oil.
So you said you're going for a walk. We're going to go for a walk and look at plants. Is
Yes.
that what you're? When are you doing this?
We're going to do it right now.
Okay, I'm going to go see if my partner's here.
Okay, great. Well, it'll probably be a couple more minutes.
Okay.
So, yeah. So a tincture is just a great way to keep an herb long term. Because it's in the vodka, it's not going to get moldy. It's not going to get kind of gross, whereas an oil will go rancid after about 3 to 6 months. Another thing about the chaparral, if you were to make a chaparral oil and put a drop into other oils that you're making, it's a natural preservative. And they actually used it to preserve butter until 1976 or something. So it was a widespread use. And then they found out, oh, we're actually causing a lot of liver and kidney damage to putting chaparral in everybody's butter. Which is why the USDA went, oh, we should stop using this since people eat butter every day.
Or there was just a pharmaceutical product that got leverage.
Correct, but with the
Probably more
harshness,
likely, yeah.
probably. But with the harshness of this, it actually makes a little bit of sense as to why we probably wouldn't want to be consuming chaparral in the doses that they were putting in there. But again, they just didn't. There's not a lot of scientific research on chaparral as a preservative prior to 1970 and the effects on the kidneys and the liver. So, yeah, but pharmaceuticals and engineered products usually take over natural, wild pretty quickly, and that happens all the time. So, I would always suggest to gather, if you find something and you believe that it's either a medicinal or an edible, which almost everything is, take some home with you and then start doing some research about it. I love to gather. I love to feel and touch and experience. I think a lot of you that are here are probably experiential learners as well. That's why you're here. So let's go look at the chaparral plant actually over. It's just right behind the trailer, so feel free to leave your chairs there if you want. Like Palo Verde, this is an edible. This has edible flowers and seeds on it. Otherwise, it's a pretty gross plant.
Yeah.
You don't want to burn it. You don't want to use it. But it does give us amazing edible flowers and seeds. So not every plant is going to have a lot of uses. There might only, whereas the creosote or the chaparral plant has a ton of uses. It's a pain reliever. It's a healer. It is one of the most powerful healers in the desert. And the medicine people of this area used it so much. They use it in their sweat lodges. They use it for so many aspects of their lives, which it makes sense because it's so abundant. So there's something called the quartzite crud. It's kind of a respiratory, has anybody heard of the quartzite crud? Okay, so it's like an upper respiratory thing that kind of gets in your sinuses and upper respiratory. They say that there's a fungus in the dirt. There's also, it could be caused because people are burning Palo Verde, which is nasty stuff to burn, but it's all in the washes, so people just throw it in their fires. And so with that, my thought is if something in an area, if a lot of people in an area are getting the same thing, a cough or a respiratory illness, what plant is in the wild that is going to help heal that? And the second I heard that chaparral was an antifungal, which is what's in the soil, an antiviral, an antibacterial, I knew that there was so much chaparral in this area because nature was giving it to us to help us heal. And so that's what I find so remarkable. And it'll be that way across the globe. It'll be that way in every area. So if you go to a state and there's a ton of people that have the same kind of thing, or around winter something's going on, look for the plant. Often pine trees are the way to go in most places. Everywhere we've been, there's been pine trees, except for here. But there's chaparral. So pine trees are another really great plant to start with, because I have not actually heard of any variety of pine tree that's not edible. So the pine needles can actually be chewed on and spit out, and they have more vitamin C than an orange. My kids love finding pine trees, and if there's anybody on the trail next to us, they'll go, "Here, eat this!" And they do, and they go, "Okay, that's actually not too bad," and they'll spout out all sorts, "It's really good for you, and you're eating an orange right now," and all this kind of stuff. And it's really encouraging for them that they can incorporate it and use it into their own lives. And making a simple tea out of a pine needle, great nutrients. I would say if you were on a hike and you didn't have food while you were stuck in the mountains or something, all you had was snow and pine trees, you could survive a very long time with the nutrients that you would have just from brewing teas out of the pine needles. Yeah.
I
Yeah, and so this is why I think learning just starting to learn and incorporate the plants and the plants and edibles and wild into our lives, especially traveling full time. There's so often that you get to a spot and you go, man, I am really far out here. What if something happened? What if I broke down? And because of knowing just a few of these, it takes so much of the fear away. You're suddenly empowered and knowing, wow, I could survive. I know how to take care of myself. Now you're thriving. You're no longer surviving, just trying to make the few cans that you have left last. You're really going, there's no shortage. Even in the desert. You know, you go up to Oregon, there's really no shortage. You can thrive a long time. But this is a great way to just be in observation about the plant. What are the shapes of the leaves? Do the leaves come out at the same point? So see how these leaves come out at the same point on the stem. This is an identifying feature of how to identify plants in the wild. They will either alternate, they will be 1, 1, 1, or like this one, they will be coming out at equal sides. So this is a great way to just start identifying the tree or the leaf patterns, whether they come out at the same or they alternate. In the books, they will always talk about the leaves. They say the leaves are alternating on the stem or they come out equal. So that's one way to start knowing that what you're looking at is what the book is talking about. Because sometimes you'll have to look at a few different parts of the plant in order to go, okay, is this really what they're saying? So, and then the stem, the branches of the plant. And this is a great thing. You can look at the creosote plant and look at the palo verde. The palo verde is a very distinctive green branch. And you go, okay, that is a different plant. And sometimes just it could be that simple. Playing with it and going, these are two distinct plants. And then start looking at other plants. Is that the same? No, that's a different plant. That's another different plant. And then just start identifying how many different plants are in just this area right here. Does that make sense? And just identifying. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there's 6 distinct plants. And now from here, this is where I just play with it. Because again, this book can get super overwhelming. You're going, oh my, these are all green. There's no flowers. This is a book that only has flowers. And it can start getting really frustrating and really overwhelming. And so again, I would gather up one of each of these plants and start looking at them. And so you guys can come down here. Here is another plant right here. This is called brittle bush.
Brittle bush.
Brittle bush.
And it's growing inside the chaparral.
It's growing inside of it. So, and you'll find this a lot. You'll find this in greens, such as, you'll find 15 different greens all growing together under one tree. And you'll have to go, wow, I thought this was this, I thought this was this. It also has yellow flowers on it. I think on the other side of the road.
What do you do with the brittle?
Really pretty, yep, there's a couple of yellow flowers right over there.
Oh, let's go over there.
She'll bring them.
I'll bring one of these back for people that, so these are the flowers of the brittle bush. And these are not edible. Nothing on this plant is edible.
What about these flowers?
These are the creosote or chaparral flowers.
What would happen if you were to use that as a tincture?
Absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to get, if the seeds or the flowers end up in your tincture, no problem.
You're fine.
You just want to use as many leaves as possible because that's where the healing is. So, but With this one specifically, the flowers and seeds don't have an impact
Okay.
negatively or positively.
Now, is there a ratio? Do you want to fill the bottle?
Okay, I got a medicinal plant book all about making tinctures, the prop 1/32 of the herb to the tincture to the, and I went, this is why I don't do this. And I went, you know, for my family, I take a jar, I put some herb in it, put some vodka, and I trust that if I needed to use that for medicinal or emergency purposes, I trust that it would work for my family. Yes, you can get as far deep into the process of making tinctures and salves and do them do the chemistry. If that's really what like your passion is, that makes me want to go, damn it, I'm not going to do it. You know what?
Yeah.
That makes me want to give up when I see that I now have to create a specific ratio, and if I don't, it's not going to work. And that always just kind of hit me, and it was like, maybe I just shouldn't even be doing this, because I just, with the kids I just don't have the patience for it. So if it's for your own personal use, just start gathering, and you'll see it. You saw my little tincture jar. And that's really, I mean, you could find those little jars at antique shops everywhere you go for $1 or less. I think I picked up 10 of them for $2 or something. We picked up some corks from a hardware store, and I know that I can shove some leaves in there, put some vodka in there, and that's going to be good enough for me. As you start looking in the book, some plants are very volatile, which mean that they have really high oils in them. Mint is a volatile because it's so potent. So with those, you would only need a few leaves in the vodka versus something that, like lavender is actually not a volatile. You might need to fill the whole jar up with lavender with the same amount of vodka that you put with the mint. Does that kind of make sense? So again, some of this is intuitive. If you don't have a book handy, smell it. If you're like, whoa, okay, a little does it. And then if you're smelling something and you're like, it smells really good, but it's very faint, you might need a little bit more to create a stronger potency in the vodka. So this, again, I am not a horticulturist. I very much use this practically. It's for me, if I was to start getting too deep into it, for me, the passion of it and the excitement might fade a little bit, because that's not where my brain is. So if that's where your brain is, get a book, because it'll tell you exactly how to do all that, right? Okay.
Learn by doing.
Yeah.
Was this a B brittle or R brittle?
Brittle bush.
So what do you do with what's
Brittle bush. So the cowboys actually use it as their toothbrush. So they take it and gnaw on the stick of it, and just kind of rub it on their teeth, and it helps to create strong teeth.
That's cool.
That's on the actual non-leaf part of the book.
Yeah, so in this actual stem part, you can kind of see it. So there's resin in there. If you want to just pass that around. There's a resin in there, and that resin actually, you can glue your teeth back together with the resin from that.
What?
They used it to fix pottery. It was so strong.
Wow.
The resin in it will actually cure tooth pain. So it will get into the tooth pain. The monks in the early churches in this area actually used the resin as frankincense in the churches, because they couldn't get it imported fast enough for when they were using it. So again, it's not an edible, so if you're going to be using it, spit it out.
It's like a musky kind of.
Frankincense-y kind of.
Yeah, like spicy
Yep.
kind of.
It's a frankincense-y kind of smell to it.
Wow.
Right on this there.
I did not know. I want one now.
Can you use it as a smudge too? For smoking or for smoke?
You can, the resin, I would not use the leaves, I would use the stick.
Okay. Stems
Yeah,
only.
the stems only. I'm just going after what the monks did. I feel like they actually, you can come out and cut the branches just make a slit in a few branches, and I haven't seen it yet. I don't think it's moist enough. But you can they slit it, they just put a bunch of slits in the plants, and the resin would start dripping out. They would collect the resin and then burn the resin.
Okay.
And this also, you can also put the resin, they would put it on like they would heat it up in ashes and put it on a cloth, and it would open up the respiratory and heal pneumonia and all sorts of like crazy things. So what the indigenous people did with it, there's a lot of people who go, we just haven't replicated it, so we don't know how to do it again. And so there's a lot of oral tradition that has been passed down of they used it for this, they used it like this, but we don't often take our ashes and mix it with the resin and try them out. I would like to start doing that. That's something that I think would be really powerful to start doing.
You said this is called what again?
Brittle bush.
Brittle bush, okay.
Yep. And it has those pretty like sun ray.
Yeah, no, I remember all
flowers
that.
on
I just don't.
Yep. So, and this is the Palo Verde. It is not flowering right now, but when it does, the flowers and the seed pods are edible. So this is something that will be prolific, obviously. Palo Verde, Palo Verde, Palo Verde. There is going to be a lot of food, right? As soon as spring comes, that's a lot of food on every single one of these branches.
What do they taste like?
I've not tasted them yet. But a lot of people incorporate them into their salads.
They tasted like seed pods.
Huh?
They taste like seed pods, just like
No, the flowers don't taste like seed pods.
No, the seeds do.
Well, the seeds, they said, if the seeds have been dried on the Palo Verde, they suggest sprouting them and then eating them. And you can actually find seed pods on a lot of Palo Verdes now from last season, and you would do the same thing. So you could actually create a food source currently from last year's seed pods by gathering the dried seeds that are left on the trees, soaking them in a wet paper towel, sprouting them, and now you have a full food source.
So what was the salad component?
The flowers, adding the flowers. And so this squiggly octopus-like cactus, that's an octio octopus, or octio cactus. The octio cactus has edible flowers, and there actually are flowers on an octio right down this street. I don't know if you saw them. They're bright red, beautiful flowers. And I would say 90% of cactus flowers and fruits are edible. It's just a matter of how to prepare them. They each have a little bit of a different way to prepare them. But again, if you're in the desert and you need a food source and you need nutrition, I would trust that a cactus has that nutrition for us. So that's something that's really encouraging. It's kind of amazing being in a desert where it doesn't look like there is much around here. Everything's still a little half alive, and there's still so much that would help us in our daily lives. So this is the plant that, for those of you that were here earlier, and I was talking about, I asked the horticulturist to help me identify it. She mentioned that it might be like a wild curry. So if you guys want to smell this, we have not 100% identified it. If you want to pass it around and smell it, it smells amazing. Is that what's here?
Come on, ladies.
It's like a mint. Right over here. This one right here. We're not quite sure. She believes it's an herb, maybe some sort of in the curry family. But it just smells magnificent.
I think that's more of the same bush.
Yes,
Right there, yes.
it's right here and right here. Good identifying.
Yay, I'm already good at this.
So again, everybody is going to smell something, and this is where I can now look up in Google a curry or thyme smelling shrub. So this is where we just kind of play with it, right? Until we find it. It is not in this book. It is not in the other places. I have not found any pictures of it online.
That's nice.
So, because there's just so many, they can only put so many plants in a book. And if it doesn't have, if it's not everywhere, there's not a comprehensive book.
There's not one fits all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There is a website you can take photos of
the plant identification group on Facebook. I might have to do that and see what they say.
Stephanie knows what it is.
What?
A little brown
That'd be
ball on
interesting
that
to figure out.
stem right there. Do you know what that is?
Is that a gall?
A what?
Gall? G-A-U-L? Oh yeah, it is.
Insect
That's
hound.
from an insect.
From the gall wasp?
Well, a insect that will lay their eggs in there.
Oh,
And
interesting.
that protects the eggs.
My son showed him.
Gall.
So I have one more plant to share with you guys, and it's called the goji berry or wolfberry. If anybody's ever heard of a goji berry, they grow wild here, and they're actually right at the end of this wash.
Goji berries?
Goji
I
berries.
thought goji berries came from
China.
China,
They
yeah.
do come from China.
And we have them here,
We
and
have them right here locally.
they're
They're
expensive.
very
You got 'em.
expensive. They're very expensive. It's a great find, right?
Yeah,
They have
absolutely.
the goji berries have all 8 essential amino acids that you need if you're a vegan. They have 15 to 25% protein in them. They have vitamin C, vitamin A, like calcium. They are a full food source, so you could easily make a tea out of those and get a lot of nutrients just out of a few berries.
And they grow exclusively in an arid environment, or?
I am not sure. I was kind of surprised that they grew here in the desert. So it's down at the end of the road. So what we'll do is we'll go back up and kind of pack up all of our stuff, and then we can disperse from there. But I do want to show you that plant because it's such an amazing resource to have right here in our front yards. You would probably grab a stick and leave, pull.
Oh, you mean one of those little grabber sticks?
Well, I mean, like, look at the branches that are growing right here, and they kind of curve. You could easily take
Like that stick right there.
Yeah.
Just get one.
Now, would you have to prepare that to eat it?
Golly.
Break this one off, yeah.
Are the spikes lined with resin? Some do.
All right.
So that's edible.
So they say.
Oh, yeah.
So they
Maybe
say.
have a crack at
Looks
it.
like there's enough here for everyone.
I can go ahead and pass it around.
Thank you for getting that.
Oh, those are interesting. Wow. Get one that's fully blended.
Kind of like a honeysuckle.